Black Lives Matter group has tweeted in support of Palestine, actually. But they sparked outrage as their message was accompanied by an online graphic of a paratrooper. The image was posted just days after Hamas carried out its horrific attacks on Israel. So Black Lives Matter is a decentralised political organisation, but the Chicago offshoot have been widely criticised for this post. I can speak now to political commentator Suzanne Evans. Suzanne, thank you very much. Great to have you on the show. This is, I think, describing or depicting something that maybe quite a few people always worried about Black Lives Matter, really, which is that they tend to be a hard left, potentially relatively militant organisation, now actually openly supporting people. And this is after, I believe, there were initial reports came about babies being decapitated in Israel, for goodness sake.
Well, I suppose what I'm surprised by is that anyone's actually surprised, to be honest, because I think it's always been fairly obvious to me, and I think many other people, that Black Lives Matter is not about equal rights for black people, that it's always been a violent, marxist, anarchist organisation. It pushes, for instance, divisive critical race theory, the idea that legal discrimination against white people should be allowed. Several of their organisers have been prosecuted for fraud. They've abused donations that have been made to the group. And, given that this organisation in its heyday reaped at least £60 million for people who saw them as the big thing, the big cause to get behind, including, let's not forget, many corporates, I'm really not surprised about this. I mean, as I say, as far as I'm concerned, the writing was always on the wall about them.
Yeah, I mean, we take the knee before football matches, don't we? We've had, it kind of indoctrinated into kids, and we've had politicians taking the knee left, right and centre. We have police officers taking the knee outside Downing Street. And some people bothered to have a little look at what the Black Lives Matter organisation actually stood for. And I am always at pains to stress the difference between the words Black Lives Matter, which are valid, obviously, and the Black Lives Matter organisation, which is its own entity and it's a political force. It published a manifesto. That manifesto had some incredibly Marxist things in there, like the radical redistribution of wealth and the disintegration of the nuclear family. Those were things that they stood for, right? And yet we just gobbled it all up, didn't we? We gobbled it all up, and now there they are with a Palestinian paratrooper.
Yeah, and of course, defunding the police as well. I mean, perhaps I could just remind the viewers about some of the people who actually fell for their rhetoric. The BBC, who, when the BLM organised what turned into riots in London, called them largely peaceful. So keen were they to ensure that Black Lives Matter got their message across. You've already mentioned the Premier League, who allowed players to have their names replaced by Black Lives Matter on their back of their shirts and to take the knee before football matches. We had the Royal Mail, who painted some of their postboxes black. Yorkshire Tea, which told critics of Black Lives Matter, the people who had looked into their Marxist manifesto, Yorkshire Tea said, don't buy our tea if you don't like Black Lives Matter. They were promoted by Vogue magazine in special editions. I think Guinness-owned Diageo said they were going to donate $1 million to them. And they were praised by Unilever for what they said was shining a spotlight on divisions and injustices in our world, in our society. I mean, they took in so many people, and yet a fundamental tiny bit of research could have revealed the real agenda behind, as you say, this Marxist organisation. We all know that Black Lives Matter, the organisation, I'm afraid, is riddled with horrific problems.
Yeah, and I think people have unnecessarily stumbled over that turn of phrase, really. It is absolutely dead easy to say, yes, Black Lives Matter, but the Black Lives Matter organisation is its own entity, and it's got a manifesto, it's got a different thing going on for it, and you don't necessarily have to support that. That in itself does not make you a racist. In fact, it just doesn't. It's got nothing to do with it. In the same way that not supporting the Labour Party or not supporting the Tory Party doesn't make you one thing or the other necessarily. Look, Suzanne, thank you very, very much. It's great to have you on the show. Suzanne Evans there, political commentator, just reacting to, well, in her views, the not-so-shocking news that an offshoot of the Black Lives Matter organisation has been very, very quick to say that they stand with Palestine.